In the dusty frontier town of Silver Creek, nestled between the jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains and the endless sprawl of sagebrush plains, life moved to the rhythm of creaking wagon wheels and the distant howl of coyotes. It was 1875, a time when the West was wild, gold fever gripped men's souls, and a woman's fate often hung on the whims of her father or the barrel of a gun. Amelia Hawthorne, just 19 years old, with hair like spun gold and eyes the color of a stormy sky, found herself at the mercy of both. Amelia's father, Elias Hawthorne, was a hard man, scarred by years of prospecting that yielded more fool's gold than fortune. He'd come to Silver Creek a decade ago, dragging his wife and young daughter from the comforts of St. Louis, chasing whispers of silver veins in the hills. But the mines had been unkind, and when Amelia's mother succumbed to fever 2 winters past, Elias drowned his grief in whiskey and bad decisions. The latest was a debt to Harlan Blackwood, the town's most notorious rancher, a man whose shadow loomed larger than the mountains themselves. Harlan was 42, broad-shouldered and weathered, with a face chiseled from granite and eyes that pierced like a hawk's. He owned half the land around Silver Creek, ran cattle drives that stretched to Kansas, and rumor had it he'd killed more men than the Apache raids combined. Folks said he was a former Confederate soldier, turned outlaw after the war, but he'd bought his way into respectability with blood money. Elias owed him a small fortune from a poker game gone sour, and when Harlan came calling, the price wasn't coin, it was Amelia's hand in marriage. "I ain't got the money, Harlan," Elias had slurred one fateful night at the Rusty Spur Saloon. "But I got something better. My girl's of age, pretty as a picture. She'd make a fine wife." Harlan had eyed Amelia from across the room, where she served drinks to rowdy miners, her apron stained with spilled ale. She felt his gaze like a brand on her skin and shivered. "Deal," Harlan said, his voice a low rumble that silenced the piano player mid-tune. Amelia protested, of course. She begged her father, tears streaming down her cheeks, but Elias was unmoved. "It's for the family, girl. You'll learn to love him, or at least tolerate him." The wedding was set for the following Saturday, the whole town invited to witness the union at the little white chapel on the edge of town. Amelia spent the nights leading up to it wide awake, her heart pounding with dread. Harlan Blackwood was a monster in her mind, cold, ruthless, a man who broke horses and men with equal ease. What would he do to a fragile thing like her? The day dawned hot and merciless, the sun baking the parched earth. Amelia stood before the mirror in her mother's old lace dress, altered to fit her slender frame. Her best friend, Clara Jenkins, the blacksmith's daughter, helped pin her hair, whispering encouragements. "Maybe he ain't as bad as they say, Amelia. Folks exaggerate." But Amelia knew better. She'd seen Harlan ride into town, his black stallion kicking up dust, his Colt revolver gleaming at his hip. He'd once shot a man for cheating at cards, right in the street, and the sheriff, Harlan's pocket, had called it self-defense. "He's the devil himself," Amelia whispered back, her voice trembling. The chapel was packed with curious townsfolk, miners with soot-streaked faces, ranch hands in their Sunday best, shopkeepers, and their wives buzzing with gossip. "Poor girl," they murmured. "Traded like a sack of flour." Elias stood proud at the altar, as if he'd brokered a peace treaty. Harlan arrived last, his boots echoing on the wooden floor, his dark suit tailored sharp as a knife. The ceremony was a blur. Amelia's vows stuck in her throat, forced out by the preacher's insistent gaze. When Harlan slipped the gold band on her finger, his touch was surprisingly gentle, but she flinched anyway. "I do," she managed, her voice barely audible. The kiss was chaste, his lips rough against hers, and she pulled away as soon as decency allowed. Afterward, The reception spilled into the town square, tables groaning under potluck dishes and barrels of ale. Harlan had spared no expense, hiring fiddlers from Denver and roasting a whole steer. But Amelia sat rigid beside him, picking at her food, her mind racing with escape plans. Run to the hills? Beg the stagecoach driver for passage east? But she had no money, no skills beyond serving tables and mending clothes. She was trapped. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Harlan stood, clinking his glass for silence. The crowd hushed expectant. "Folks," he began, his deep voice carrying over the murmurs, "I ain't much for speeches. But today, I married the finest woman in Silver Creek." He glanced at Amelia, his expression unreadable. "And I got a gift for her. Something to show my intentions." Amelia's stomach knotted. What could it be? A new dress? Jewelry pilfered from some stagecoach robbery? Or worse, something to bind her further, like a deed to land she'd never leave. Harlan whistled sharp, and from the edge of the square, his foreman, old Jeb Wilkins, led a procession. First came a wagon, covered in canvas, pulled by two sturdy mules. Behind it, a string of horses, fine mustangs, their coats gleaming. The crowd parted, whispering excitedly. Harlan pulled back the canvas with a flourish, revealing crates stamped with exotic labels. Parisian silks, Boston china, New York books. But that wasn't all. From the wagon's depths, Jeb unloaded a massive oak chest, placing it at Amelia's feet. Harlan actually knelt, before her, unlocking it with a key from his pocket. The lid creaked open, and gasps rippled through the crowd. Inside gleamed gold coins, stacks of them, enough to buy half the town. But nestled among them were deeds, land titles, mining claims, even shares in the railroad coming through next year. And atop it all, a leather-bound ledger, its pages filled with Harlan's scrawling script. "What's this?" Amelia breathed, her fear momentarily forgotten in confusion. Harlan's eyes softened, a vulnerability she'd never imagined. "It's yours, Amelia. All of it. The gold's from my strikes, clean money, not blood. The deeds are in your name. And the ledger." He hesitated, then continued, "It's my past. Every wrong I've done, every man I've crossed. Confessions, signed and notarized. If I ever raise a hand to you, or make you unhappy, you take this to the marshal. It'll hang me higher than a kite." The town erupted in murmurs. He's given her his fortune? And his secrets? That's suicide. Elias's face paled. He'd expected an alliance, not this. Amelia stared, speechless. "Why?" she finally asked, her voice cutting through the din. Harlan stood, offering his hand. "Because I ain't the man they say. War broke me, sure. I did things I'm ashamed of. But when I saw you, serving drinks with that fire in your eyes, I wanted redemption. Not just a wife, a partner. Someone to build something real with. If you don't want me, walk away now. With everything." Tears welled in Amelia's eyes. This wasn't the monster she feared. This was a man laying his soul bare, in front of God and Silver Creek. Tentatively, she took his hand. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll give me a chance," he replied softly. The fiddlers struck up a tune, and the town cheered, toasting the unlikely couple. But Amelia's journey was just beginning. That night, in the grand ranch house atop Blackwood Hill, she pored over the ledger by candlelight. Tales of battles in Georgia, a brother lost to cannon fire, a descent into banditry after Appomattox. Harlan had robbed trains, yes, but only from carpetbaggers exploiting the South. He'd killed, but in defense or duels. And in recent years, he'd turned legitimate, investing in mines and cattle. Still, doubts lingered. Was this a trick? A way to buy her silence? The next morning, as dawn broke over the pastures, Amelia saddled a horse, her horse now, from the gift string, and rode into town. She sought out Sheriff Malone, a grizzled veteran who'd always been kind to her. "Is this real?" she asked, showing him a page from the ledger. Malone whistled low. "Girl, if this is Harlan's hand, it's dynamite. He'd swing for half these admissions. Why give it to you?" "To prove he's changed," she said, testing the words. Malone nodded. "Reckon so. Man's got a reputation, but I've seen him pull miners from cave-ins, donate to the orphanage. Maybe he's earning his piece." Back at the ranch, Harlan waited on the porch, hat in hand. "You ride off?" "I thought about it," Amelia admitted. "But I came back." A slow smile creased his face. "That's a start." Days turned to weeks. Amelia explored her new life cautiously. The ranch was vast, rolling hills dotted with cattle, a bubbling creek, even a garden her mother would have envied. Harlan taught her to ride properly, not the side-saddle nonsense from back east, but astride like a true Westerner. He showed her the books, explaining the finances she'd inherited. "You're rich now, Amelia. Independent." She learned his routines. Rising before dawn to mend fences, negotiating with suppliers in town, reading by firelight, poetry of all things. Whitman and Longfellow. "Keeps the demons at bay," he'd say. But fear didn't vanish overnight. One evening, a thunderstorm raged, lightning cracking like gunfire. Harlan flinched at each boom, sweat beading his brow. "The war," he muttered. "Cannons." Amelia hesitated, then placed a hand on his arm. "Tell me about it." He did, haltingly at first, then in a torrent. The charge at Gettysburg, watching friends fall, the guilt of surviving. "I came west to forget. Built this empire on anger. But you make me want to be better." In return, she shared her dreams. Books she'd read in secret, a desire to teach, perhaps open a school for the miners' children. "Pa never let me." "Then do it," Harlan said. "Use the gold. Build it." Excitement stirred in her. For the first time, marriage felt like possibility, not prison. But Silver Creek wasn't done with drama. Word of Harlan's gift spread like wildfire, drawing envy and opportunists. Elias, bitter at being cut out, drowned his sorrows at the saloon, muttering about ungrateful daughters. Worse, a gang of outlaws, the remnants of Harlan's old crew, rode in, led by Silas Crow, a one-eyed desperado with a grudge. "We heard you gone soft, Blackwood," Silas sneered, confronting Harlan in the square. "Giving your loot to a slip of a girl? We want our share." Harlan stood firm, Amelia at his side. "That life's behind me, Silas. Ride on." But Silas laughed, drawing his pistol. "Or what? You'll confess to the law?" The town held its breath. Amelia's hand trembled, but she stepped forward. "He doesn't have to." "I do." She pulled a page from her pocket, a copied confession, and waved it. "This names you all. Robberies, murders. The marshal's a wire away." Silas paled. The gang shifted uneasily. "She's bluffing, Dot." "Try me," Amelia said, her voice steel. Harlan's gift had empowered her, turned fear to fire. A standoff ensued, tension thick as molasses. Then, Sheriff Malone emerged with deputies, rifles cocked. "Best skedaddle, boys. Ladies got the goods." The gang fled, tails between legs. The town cheered Amelia as heroine. "Blackwood's bride's got grit," they said. Harlan pulled her close. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did. For us." As months passed, Love bloomed slow and sweet. Harlan built the schoolhouse with his own hands, Amelia teaching ABCs to wide-eyed kids. They rode together at sunset, shared stories under stars. The fear faded, replaced by trust. 1 year later, on their anniversary, the town gathered again. Harlan had another gift, a sapphire necklace, mined from his claims. But the real shock? Amelia's announcement. "We're expecting Dot." Silver Creek erupted in joy. The once feared rancher and his forced bride had forged a legend. A tale of redemption, courage, and unexpected love. And as Amelia looked at Harlan, his eyes shining with pride, she knew, sometimes, the greatest gifts rewrite destinies.